AI in filmmaking. It's not exactly new, is it? But this new film, The Brutalist, and the way they're using AI has stirred up a whole lot of controversy.
Yeah, it feels like every time AI steps into some new creative space, you can almost guarantee there's going to be pushback,
Yeah,
right?
it's bound to happen, I guess.
Especially, I think, in Hollywood,
Yeah.
where the lines between art and technology are getting more and more blurred all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this isn't just some theoretical debate either.
Yeah.
This controversy blew up in early January,
Oh, wow. So right in the thick of it.
right in the middle of awards season, no less.
Oh, yeah. That adds a whole other
It adds a whole other layer
to it.
to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But before we get into the controversy itself, maybe you can give us a little background on The Brutalist and how AI was actually used in the filmmaking.
Sure. So The Brutalist, it's I won't give away any spoilers, but it's kind of this sweeping epic that follows an architect over many decades.
Okay. Yeah.
Visually, it's really stunning. It's got a complex narrative and a great cast.
Oh.
Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones.
Big names.
Yeah, and the controversy is really focused on two main things. One is the actors' accents.
Okay.
And then the second is some of the architectural visuals that were used in the film.
Okay. Let's start with the accents then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know how important a believable accent can be, especially in a film like this, where their backgrounds and language are so key to the whole story.
It's everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's where this company, Respeecher, comes in. They're a Ukrainian company that specializes in voice cloning.
Voice cloning.
Yeah. But before anyone starts thinking about, like, robot voices,
Right.
it's important to understand how it was actually used. They weren't replacing the actors' voices entirely.
Okay.
It was more about making these subtle refinements to their Hungarian accents.
So almost like a high-tech dialects coach.
Exactly.
Okay.
Working at, like, a microscopic level.
Wow.
So they used these audio samples from the film's editor, who was a native Hungarian speaker,
Oh, just
to train the AI. And they focused on specific vowels and sounds that Brody and Jones were having trouble with.
wow. So the AI is just making these tiny little
Adjustments.
adjustments to the pronunciation.
Yeah, the goal was to enhance the performance, right?
Yeah.
And make sure that those accents sounded really natural to a Hungarian audience.
So you wouldn't even really know.
You wouldn't know.
It's like this invisible layer.
It's invisible.
Almost.
Yeah.
But then that raises questions about what does it even mean for a performance to be authentic anymore?
Yeah, it's a huge question, and that's one of the main points of contention in this whole controversy, right? Is it still authentic if it's been digitally altered? And it's a debate that goes way beyond just this one film.
Yeah.
It gets to the heart of what we value in art,
Totally. So we've got AI tweaking accents behind the scenes. What about those architectural visuals you mentioned? How did AI fit into that part?
This is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
So for the film's closing scenes, they needed to create these super intricate and historically accurate architectural blueprints and renderings.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get a really high level of detail, so they turned to AI to do it.
So they basically had an AI architect on their team.
Yeah, in a way, I guess we don't know exactly which AI tool they used, but it was probably some kind of generative design software.
That's generative design software.
Yeah, these programs use algorithms to create images based on certain parameters that you set.
So almost like giving the AI a creative brief.
Yeah, like you say,
Yeah.
okay, I want it to be this architectural style from this time period, and I want to see these specific details, and then you just let it go.
And then it just goes.
And then it just generates options for you.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. It's like these algorithms are crunching through tons of data,
Yeah.
looking at historical blueprints and building styles, and then they spit out these incredibly detailed and realistic images.
That's exactly it. And it shows you how far AI has come in terms of creative potential. But as you can imagine, using AI to generate such a crucial part of the film's visuals, it raised some eyebrows.
So up to this point, the AI use had been kind of under the radar. When did this whole thing explode into a full-blown controversy?
It came out in a really unexpected way. The film's editor, in some behind-the-scenes interview, just casually mentioned using AI for both the accents and the visuals.
It's kind of offhand.
Yeah, almost like an afterthought. But it sparked this huge media frenzy.
Wow. So the cat was out of the bag, and everyone's suddenly talking about AI's role in The Brutalist.
Yeah,
What were some of the reactions?
it was all over the place, really.
Not bad.
Some people were fascinated.
Yeah.
They saw it as this, a sign of AI's creative potential.
Yeah.
But then others were a lot more hesitant,
Yeah.
even critical.
Right. And especially for actors. I mean, the idea of AI being used to make accents perfect must be kind of unnerving.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of actors, it comes down to jobs, right? Like if AI can enhance accents, well, what's stopping it from replacing voice actors
Yeah.
or dialect coaches entirely?
Right, and it's not just accents either. We were just talking about how they used AI to make those architectural visuals, too.
Right.
So could this technology eventually replace artists and designers?
That's a real fear, and I think it's something we need to really consider as AI gets more and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
I mean, are we headed towards a future where algorithms are just churning out art
Yeah,
and human creativity becomes less and less valuable?
right. It's a pretty bleak outlook. But I think there was also some pushback about the ethics of using AI in this way, too, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
One of the biggest concerns was transparency.
Yeah,
A lot of critics felt like the filmmakers should have been upfront about using AI from the beginning rather
yeah.
than letting it come out in this roundabout way.
It definitely feels like that lack of transparency just made things
Oh,
worse.
for sure. It
Like,
created this whole cloud of distrust.
yeah,
It made people question the filmmakers' motives, you
right,
know?
right,
Like, why were they being so secretive about it? It kind of feeds into that fear of manipulation.
right. And I remember reading something about how some actors were worried about the potential for misuse of the technology, too.
Yeah, Glenn Close was very vocal about this.
Oh, really?
She's been outspoken about her concerns about AI in Hollywood.
Interesting.
And she specifically mentioned the risk of someone using AI to recreate an actor's voice or image without their consent.
That's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, it opens up a whole other can of worms legally and ethically.
Right. It's easy to imagine how this tech could be used for bad things like deepfakes or
Absolutely.
propaganda.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
adds this whole other level of complexity to the debate. But what about the director's response to all of this?
He must have had something to say in his defense.
Oh, yeah, he did. Brady Corbett, he came out and defended using AI.
Okay.
He said it was just a tool.
Mm,
It wasn't a replacement for human talent.
right.
He emphasized that the actors still gave their own performances,
Right.
and the AI was just there to make specific things better.
So from his perspective, it was about using technology to create a more authentic experience.
Yeah, that was his argument. He said it actually enhanced the authenticity.
Oh, wow. So it goes right back to that question of what authenticity even means anymore.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most important things to come out of this whole brutalist controversy.
Hmm.
It's not just about what AI can do.
Right.
It's about what it means for art in general.
Yeah. How do we navigate this new world where the line between human and artificial is so blurry?
Yeah, and while there's a lot of fear and uncertainty surrounding AI, I think there's also this sense of excitement about the possibilities.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we're on the edge of something brand new,
Exactly.
but we have to be careful, right?
We do. We need to have those tough conversations about ethics,
Yeah.
responsibility, and the future of creativity itself.
Wow. It's a lot to think about.
It is. Yeah, it really has been quite the deep dive, hasn't it? I mean, who knew one film could spark so much debate about AI and art?
Right. And I think for me, one of the big things that comes out of this whole brutalist thing is just how important transparency is.
Oh, totally.
When you're using AI in creative projects, especially in ways that could affect people's jobs, you really got to be open about it.
100%. Transparency builds trust.
Yeah.
And it lets us have a more honest conversation about AI's role in the creative process. You know, if you try to hide it, it just makes people suspicious.
Yeah, it feeds into that fear that AI is going to take over and we won't even know it's happening.
Right, exactly.
And along with transparency, I think this whole thing just highlights how badly we need some clear ethical guidelines
Oh, yeah.
for using AI in creative fields.
We need to have those hard conversations now about what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
How do we protect artists' rights? Make sure this technology isn't being misused.
Yeah.
And, we've talked a lot about AI replacing human artists.
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't have to be one or the other.
That's a good point.
Maybe it's more about how AI can help us be even more creative.
I love that idea. AI is a collaborator.
Yeah, like a partner.
Yeah, it can push us to think in new ways,
Yeah.
to try new things.
Explore new ideas.
Exactly, and maybe even create art that we couldn't have even imagined before.
It all comes down to finding that balance, right?
It does.
Using the power of AI, but without losing that human touch.
the essence of what makes art art.
Exactly. And that means we all need to be willing to adapt,
Yeah,
learn new skills,
definitely.
and figure out how to work alongside these incredible new technologies.
It's a brand new era, and it's exciting and a little bit scary all at the same time.
It really is.
But ultimately, we get to decide what this future looks like.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Brutalist, we want to leave you with this one thought.
Okay, I like it.
How do you see the future of art in a world where AI is becoming more and more present? What role do you want AI to play in your creative life?
Those are great questions to think about.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. And that's it for this episode of AI Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow evening with another deep dive into the world of AI.
See you then.
Until then, stay curious.